So I will try to, in 30 minutes, give you the most value I can give you about kind of starting out with using AI as a programming assistant. So I will start with asking you, how many of you are using AI on a daily basis with whatever you are doing? Can you show your hands? I would say far more than half, almost everyone is doing this. Okay. Does anyone do programming and not use AI at all during a week? Oh, there are some, that's cool. Yeah. So anyways, 30 minutes, then I hope to give you a little bit of a demo, and you know how hard it is to do a demo with ChatGPT live because it can answer basically anything, so we hope that we have our luck with us. And now we will be having a talk that will explain to you why you cannot really know what will come out at some point. Divide and conquer. What is divide and conquer? Does anyone know? Okay, divide and conquer is basically when you are splitting up a challenge or a problem that you have into smaller parts so that you can solve the small parts, and then after a while you have solved the bigger problem. And we are doing it all the time as programmers, right? And as humanity, we have been doing it forever. So, let's see if I can... like this guy, for instance, that might have lived 3,000 years ago. They started solving problems this way. And what did they do to do that? Well, we have developed several kind of tools that are very good for this. Like pen and paper, reading and writing is a very good tool to be able to write something down and say, I will do this later. But also like mathematics, think about it. Mathematics is basically like the divide and conquer language. You are saying that, okay, I don't want to think about this anymore, so I'm going to call this X and just put it here, and we are thinking about that later. Right now we are focusing on those things here. Basically, divide and conquer language. There is a reason for this. The reason is, some psychologists say that have been doing some research on this, that people only have about 7 variables in their head in the kind of quick access memory where we are thinking. And that severely limits our possibility to solve problems that are huge. So that's the reason why we need those kind of crutches and tools to make this happen. 7 is the average. There are people that have like +2, -2 variables or kind of, storage points that we are using, but there is no one that has 14. Therefore, it's very cool that we can have machines that have far more storage points that can help us and be our assistants when we are trying to think in the future. So that's a little bit why I chose this title. Yes. So, realistic expectations. I'm serious when I'm saying that I have several colleagues in programming, usually older guys, but I'm not going to be ageist here, that are saying, like, I tried this GPT programming thing, and I did it for like 1 day or 2 days or a week or something, and it sucked. It was bad. It gave me some error answers, or I had to debug whatever it wrote, so it's not worth the time to do this. We have to set our expectations right, and I think that the right way of doing it is that we think a little bit about what AI is, especially the kind of AI that we are using, the generative models. And then when we understand this, it will both help us to put the questions in a good way, according to our knowledge. But it will also kind of give an understanding why it goes wrong sometimes, why it hallucinates and other stuff. Anyway, so in our example, we will think about that we have a hypothetical model here. This is not the model that exists, but it exists in our heads now that we are thinking about it. So imagine that you have all the cars in Warsaw, and we have 2 parking lots, so we are splitting them up. So we have about 50% of the cars in one parking lot and 50% in the other parking lot. And we have A and B, so it's group A and B. And this is because of the training and how we will separate data for training and testing. So we start this hypothetical AI, and we show it all the pictures from the parking lot A together with information about the registration number. So we say that there is a car like the DW1234X, and this is the picture. And we're loading it into this model. So this is step 1. Now we have step 2, when we are taking random cars from group B that it has never seen before, and we are showing it to it and say, okay, so tell me the registration number. And it has to guess. And then, when it is doing a good guess, then we are doing like we do with the dog. When it's behaving good, we are doing good bot, good AI. And when it guesses wrong, we are saying bad bot, bad AI. This is the kind of training that is feeding back into the model, so that we are giving it a response on continue to do this, but do less of this, basically. After a while, we end up with a model that is quite good at guessing registration numbers or kind of figuring them out. Because let's be real here. If I took some pictures, or let's say I took one picture from group B, and I sent you on your phones here in this group, and I said to you, please message me back the number, then I would get like 100%, maybe 99%, someone had a typo or something, but I would get the same number back. And what is the reason for that? The reason is, of course, that it's readable on the picture, right? So the information is there in the picture. You are able to write a program, even if it might be advanced, that can extract this from the picture. So now we come to the mind twist. This is a hypothetical model. This is not a model that exists. Imagine now that this model, it has seen all the pictures in group A and, the license plate numbers. So at this point now, we are saying, show me the picture of the car that is called EXT301. What will we get? Is it reasonable to think that I could send you, a license plate, and you would draw me the exact model, make, and color that is a real car that is standing in parking lot B? Probably not, because that information is not there. It's not really random, right? But it's on the other side, it's not in an easy systematic way so that you can easily see the reg number and understand what car it is. That's obvious. So that means that this model, it is able to create, this hypothetical model, is able to create some picture that is very car-like because it's seen, hundreds of thousands of cars. But it's not necessarily, that car. And probably not that car. It's a generated kind of best guess based on all it has seen about cars, which is much. So, inferential or generative. So we have two kinds of AIs here, and that is very important to understand. And the ones that we are mostly interested in this talk are the generative. So either you can deduce something from the information you put in, like the reg number from a picture, which is deducive and you can do it consistently, or you have something that is basically a guess based on prior knowledge about the topic in general. Cars look like this. I'm going to draw, for instance, a pickup truck, right, that is red or something, and I'm going to put this reg plate on it. But it doesn't matter that it's the same as the Golf that is actually standing in Group B. So, LLMs are generative. They are created by sucking up lots and lots and lots of data from the internet, from open sources, from bought sources and stuff, and they are kind of distilled into this model, this black box, let's say, that we have on this picture. This is, of course, just an illustration, but the point is also here, look at the size of the box. This box, the models, such as GPT-4, they think that it's somewhere a little bit larger than 1 terabyte or a few terabytes. This is not open information, so that's why I cannot give you a real number. But they think that it's just that big. But it's based on petabytes of data that has been loaded into the model and that has been training the model and affected the weights inside the model that then will be used for generating output that is similar to what it has been reading. And it's very important to understand this because you might have heard now on the news about people that are talking about copyright and such. So this is very important to understand that it's not possible to zip something into 1/50,000 of the original size. I hope you understand this, right? Illustration. So this is not what's happening here. This is getting general knowledge about lots of different things. So Now we go into Stack Overflow. And there is a reason for that. Actually, there are two reasons for that. The first reason, I would say, is that this is perfect training data for an LLM. Because, as you know, all of you have been using Stack Overflow, right? Don't lie to me. So there is question and there are answers. And the awesome thing about it is that they are also ranked. So you see that if an answer is a good answer, so when you're training a model on it, you can train it on just the answers that are good or good enough. So that's the first point, that this kind of information, imagine now that GPT and such has been reading millions and millions of questions and what was a good answer, right? That's kind of what it has been doing here. So, so that was the first point. The second point why Stack Overflow is a good illustration is because it's, if you think about it, GPT is in chat format. So it's a question and an answer. So there is also a likeness in this, that we are putting something that we call a prompt when we are talking about GPT, but it's actually a question or a request or something. That's similar to the question. And then it's generating something like this. So it's been training on millions and millions and millions of similar answers, and it's generating out something that is actually a distillate or an average statistical distribution of what a good answer would be, which is very interesting. And I think that most of us, me, myself included, when we saw what what LLMs could do when they started to arrive, we were completely in shock that it comes out as both readable text, but also makes sense in most cases. At least to me, it was very shocking. So anyways, based on what we now know, do you know who this guy is, by the way? Archimedes, yes, exactly. So it was the guy that jumped out of his bathtub when he understood that his body is displacing the water, and the lifting force that he's feeling is what he's displacing, right? And it was a completely new thing that probably no one or not many had thought to that point. So how big is the chance that an AI will give you, unique kind of insight in something, that you will get, you will ask a question and it will come out with something like Einstein, like, this is a completely new thing that no one has seen before. How big is the chance based on what I told you about how it's generated? Just a guess.
It's small.
Very small, right? Because it's all made up of averages, and averages are not geniuses. So this will probably never happen, that we will get that. Anyways, LLMs are also non-deterministic, like GPT-4. When you are reading a little bit about how it works, they are talking about neurons. And those neurons, while it's thinking or generating your answer, they are turning off some neurons on purpose and on random, just to make, some variations into whatever answer you will get. So that means that basically GPT can have a bad day. Not really a bad day, because you can start a new session and start out fresh, right? But in that session that you are, it might, basically not answer your question in a good way. And that's why it can be very worth it to retry in a new session, in a new context, to see if we get a better result, if you are not happy with what you got. So I try to distill this thing. So I hope it might be helpful for someone. I said it like this, that the answer you will get is a best guess of what a good answer would look like based on a statistical probability. Does that even make any sense? Yeah. So if you think about it, I'm going to go back a little bit to Stack Overflow once again and just say it like this. Why can you paste your own function into ChatGPT and say, please add this functionality to my function I already wrote? And it will actually output your function with other code that it generated, but it's completely compatible with your coding style and your conventions and stuff. Why does it do that? because it has read millions and millions of answers that are considered good, and a good way of answering a programming question is to copy the first person's code and just insert something and show him how to, call something or do something, right? It's obvious. That's why it's happening. So now we're going to more, I'm not going to say concrete tips, because this is not concrete. There's a lot of hard learnings to work with GPT as a programming assistant. I'm trying to think about it as an assistant, but we also have to back up sometimes and not do some things. So sadly, I cannot tell you exactly what to do and what to not do in GPT. You have to find out for yourself. It's very much based on what you are developing and how you are developing. But I'm trying to give you some pointers. The first thing is not really, something that will make you productive, but this is something that is very important to me, and it's security. Security always most important to me, data security. Don't share any personal information with those things. Even if they are promising you, they won't use it for anything, they can be hacked. Or someone else can buy the company and they don't feel obliged, that they need to fulfill whatever the first person promised, and so on. So don't trust. Never just disclose. The same if you are working for a school, your boss, or you're self-employed. Don't send things that you don't want out on the internet to such a thing. And this is, of course, generic. Don't do it to anyone, right? But it's a bigger risk with GPT because you have this conversation all the time, and it's so easy to just cut and paste things in there. Anonymized requests. I'm using GPT also to write some of my emails sometimes. And then I'm talking about like Madam X and Sir Y and, Customer Z and such things. And then I'm just doing replace when I get the answer. I'm not giving them the real names of the persons. And, and of course, I hope to give you a little bit of a live demo later on how we can use the LLM for generating fake data. So everything must not be on our side. If we want to feed it with some fake data, we can also use the GPT to create fake data. So use precise prompts. Succinctly describe your request. It is that when you're talking to different people, you learn to communicate with them in an effective way. You learn their manner of speaking and such. And it's the same basically with GPT. You will see that after a while you learn how to put the questions. So learn from the answers and what you forget to add in the prompt. After a while you can get so good that you can just write it out as one thing, and you will basically get the answers on the first or second try or something. And then you start to really, then it starts to really make sense. You start to save lots of time. It takes practice. And that's, the expectation, as I said from the beginning, have reasonable expectations. Some things will take more time than just programming it from the beginning. Next tip is iterative approach. If it didn't work out in the first prompt, try to add some extra information and see if it was what was needed. And then you can retry it with the next tip. Because the next tip is, should I start fresh? You can, in GPT, all the time, open a new session. So one thing that is very easy to forget is when we are talking to normal people, we have very easy to switch contexts. So now we are talking about the flowers in your grandmother's garden, and the next time we are talking about how you have the problem to change your exhaust pipe in your car. And we don't have a problem with that. When we are talking to GPT, if we had this continuous conversation, you can see that maybe the grandmother's flowers are still affecting something down the line so that it cannot generate a very effective answer because it's still in the back of the head somewhere, if I put it like that. Restart a new session and talk about a new thing, just about that thing. And the good thing about starting fresh is also that you can always go back in history to the previous conversation. So if you just feel that, okay, the previous conversation was better, then you can always back up. And test and validate. This is basically the same as on Stack Overflow. I mean, don't copy code and just commit it, because when you commit it, you put your own name on it. So it's just, common sense. But there again, as I say, GPT-4 can help you understand code. So if it generated something that seems reasonable, but there are some lines that are not clear, copy the whole code, open a new session, paste the code, and say, I don't understand like line 6 and 7. What's it all about? What's happening here? And you will get an explanation, and then you can, of course, accept it if you think that it's reasonable. And bonus tip that not many AI educators are talking about, but I talk about it a lot. I'm actually trying to, one day a week, like Thursday or Friday, not start AI. I still want to be able to program my own code. I still want to know how the normal algorithms work and such, so I'm not, completely disconnected from whatever happens. I want to know this craft, but I will also save time during the normal days. So this illustration is of a guy in Alaska that is kind of has his own farm with. The idea was that it should be like powered from this water wheel here, but I couldn't make that. So anyways, and the reason for this is like this. As we say, right now those models that we are relying on are online. We can, for some reason, be cut off from this. So what should I stop doing my job if I don't have an AI? I must be able to do my job to some degree at least, right? And I say that, okay, so where is the cutoff point? The cutoff point, according to me, is like this. You know the calculator, pocket calculator, the graphing or something that you had when you went to school? When I can have an LLM inside that one, and it is not connected online, and it can run on batteries like for half a year, and I can just use that as my tool, then I can do as with long division and say, okay, I can figure it out on paper, but I won't keep it in my head how I do it. I can rely on the calculator or on the local LLM. But until that happens, I want to be able to do all the things that I'm asking it to do, at least. But that's kind of my idea. So in summary, be prepared for challenges, lots of challenges. Oh, how stupid stuff you can get out of this one. And I will try a live demo soon. We will see if that works at all. Learn and adapt, divide and conquer. So, as I say, ask for small chunks to start with. Start new sessions, divide and conquer. And for those that possibly are not using AI yet, if you are sitting in front of a computer most of your day, then, and this is, I'm sure of it. You might not believe me, but I'm sure that in 3 years, whatever your job title is, will be like normal that you are using some AI-powered tools that are part of this job, if you are sitting in front of a computer, and in many other jobs as well that we don't know about right now. And some are not believing me when I'm saying this. When I'm saying that, imagine an accountant that kind of does something on paper and not in Excel. How ridiculous is that thought, right? It's not imaginable even. So it's the same with AI, and we won't think about it like that. It will be some kind of a program or some tool that we are using every day, and it's just part of it. So be prepared for it, and that's the end of the presentation. And let's see if we have the random gods with us, or whatever I should say, to see if we can do some live demo. How can I share the screen? Maybe there. Okay. Do you see my screen? Yeah, you see it. That's good. Like that. Yeah, it's viewable. And then we need a browser, I guess. And I have prepared a prompt that I will try. I didn't want to write it live here because that's always a thing, but we can read through it at least. Do you see this? You can see it maybe there. I can read it. So I'm asking ChatGPT to make a Node.js program that makes fake people. And then I'm doing kind of a pseudo JSON structure. It's not a real structure, right? It's just to know the fields, basically. Output JSON to make it simple to generate many. Research latest version of any lib used by Bing. So this is because I'm using 4, so I can kind of nudge it towards Google this, right? Or Bing this, basically. So it won't give me some old information, but how you do it. So we'll see what happens. I'm taking this prompt. And this is how I would normally work, every day. So we'll see what we get.
Is there a reason why you're using ChatGPT 4 and not the other one?
Which is that one?
Better.
You mean the 3.5 or something?
Yeah.
Because I pay for it, so I only use the best, basically. Oh, error analyzing. Sounds promising. Yeah, so we get something at least.
Good answer.
Let's see if we can do it larger and so yes, so let's see what I need to do to make this work here. So I will go here and I will go to Node.js and I will create a test1 folder and then I will nano test1.js and then I will copy all this thing that it wrote, right, into here. And then I will do npm install, and I will copy whatever the library was that it suggested that we will use. Let's see. You see what I'm doing, right? Yeah. So it suggested me a library, and it wrote a small program demonstrating, and also, hopefully, it's actually outputting the kind of data that I asked it for. And this is very, very powerful when it comes to generating these kinds of, if you have this object ready or you have this table, you can just output the create table from MySQL or whatever database you have and say, fill this one. It understands those things very good. So it's really, really time-saving. Okay, so we got this library installed, and now we should be able to test the program and see what happens. Whoops, something happened. Okay, so we have fake people here. Interestingly enough, we see the faker is complaining that we aren't using the API in the most modern way. I think it's saying that we are using it in the deprecated way. So if you have this problem, you can actually copy the deprecated thing into GPT and say, it says like this, can you fix it for me? And it will usually do that. So this was the demo, and I'm pretty much done.